Going live.
Oh, I knew it.
Hello, beautiful people out there. Today is Tuesday. It's 2:00 and I am Allison Nissen with Revel Coach. And I am here today with the absolutely fantastic Layne Lyons. Layne is your attorney if you are a woman-owned solo or small business entrepreneur. And Layne, why don't you tell us a little bit about what you do for women?
Yeah. Hi. Welcome, everybody. So great to see you. Wonderful to be here. So yeah, I basically take the legal side of doing business and I make it simple, easy, a little bit lighthearted. Really, it's about, I know that legal stuff can be intimidating and sometimes overwhelming for folks, right? And we just want to stick our head in the sand and hope it goes away. But if you can systematize it and you can get somebody to work with you, hi, have we met? Who makes things step by step, bite-size, actionable pieces to make getting your legal house in order, then it's a no-brainer. You go ahead, you do it, you get your contracts, you get your trademarks, you put everything in order. Now that's basically, I come into a business, I get it all buttoned up, nice and tight, so that the people listening can go and do all the amazing and wonderful things that you're here to do, which is not monkey around with legal. That's my job.
A lot of people have already started down the legal journey. They signed a contract here or there. They, follow the legal recommendations of their website, for example. Well, what are some of the major pitfalls that people have when they are a little bit into their journey?
Okay, so first of all, I love that you touched on signing a contract. Did you actually know what was in the contract that you signed? Right? So a big legal pitfall, I think, for a lot of folks is contracts that are written in this archaic legal language that we call legalese, right? Hello, downloaded from the patriarchy. So a pitfall is not understanding what you're signing, not using contracts for your own business that you understand. So I am a big advocate of everything should be in plain English so that you completely understand what you're signing. That's the first thing. The second thing is there are certain areas in our businesses, in all online service-based businesses, that have to be protected. It's the same areas, which makes it really easy. I've made a little framework. You want me to talk about that?
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Okay. So for you to know exactly what you need to protect in your business, kind of like the opposite question of what are the pitfalls, right? Like where are the places that things can go wrong? Well, things can go wrong if you're not protected. So what do you need to protect? You can use the letters of the word umbrella. My framework is the legal umbrella because, well, of course, umbrellas save you from getting soaking wet. They keep your business from going underwater, but also because all of the letters in the word umbrella make it super easy for you to remember what you have to protect in your business. So U is your unique content. M is your money. B is your brand. R is your relationships. E is your e-presence. Everywhere you show up online. And LLA is your love life attitude. This is your sanity, right? This is beyond contracts. This is like, we have to drama proof our businesses so that we don't want to run screaming in the other direction. So it's your unique content, right? What are you talking about in your business? What are you creating? It's not just your PDFs. I mean, it is, of course, your PDFs, your videos, your reels, your recordings, everything that you're creating, but it's also all of the unique ways that you have distilled all of the trainings that you've taken, the podcasts you've listened to, the books you've read, and put that all into the unique way that you teach your clients, that you show people how to get results. So that's you for your unique content. M is your money. And money, we really need two different kinds of policies. You asked, like, what are the things that can go wrong? Well, we need written policies for when the money is coming into our business, but things can go wrong when money tries to leak out of our business in the other direction. So we need written policies to make sure that the money that we earn stays nice and snuggled where it belongs in our bank account, right? So we don't have things like refunds, ghosted payments, chargebacks, unpaid invoices. So that's money, right? And a lot can go wrong with money. So we want to make sure we have really nice, beautiful contracts around that. B, again, is for your brand. And when we're talking about brand, we're talking about your brand identity. These are the names, logos, and branding that you use in your business. And we're talking here about trademarks. You have to make sure that you're protecting your brand. They say like your brand is money in the bank. I don't know if you've ever heard that expression. Your brand is something that has to be protected from copycats and swipers. So we're talking about trademarks. R, the R is for relationships. This is all about expectations. So almost every single time that a new entrepreneur comes to me with some kind of drama in her business, it can all be traced back to unclear expectations on either side, right? So when we leave our clients and the people that we work with and the people on our team and the people who we collaborate with, when we leave these other people to fill in the blanks for us, meaning we don't use a written contract, we don't act as the leader in our business and establish the boundaries, they're going to fill in those blanks with expectations that are way grander than anything that you and I ever expected we were going to deliver. I have seen it time and time again. Sometimes people think you're going to deliver the most unimaginable things, especially when money is changing hands. So you got to protect those. People know they have to nurture their relationships. You have to protect those relationships. E, again, is for your e-presence. This is everywhere you show up online, your emails, your website, your socials. You have to make sure that you have the right policies in place, that you are protecting yourself on all of the different media. And love life attitude, that's that sanity. That's that thing that keeps us from sleepless nights. It's like, you figure it out once in your business and then you let your contracts do the heavy lifting for you so that you can maintain that love life attitude. Because when drama and negative interactions spill into our businesses, that love life attitude goes right down the drain. So we got to make sure that above all else, that we're protecting that.
That's very well put and easy to understand. I love it. I love it. But you mentioned your social presence. We all get websites. I mean, so many of them, they have the policies that are on the bottom of their websites, and we understand that part. But what about like social media? Is there anything we need to be worried about?
Yeah. So on socials, I would say the biggest concern is giving advice, which we don't necessarily have to call advice. We can think about it as sharing our expertise, teaching someone how to do something, telling someone they should do something. For example, around health and wellness, around mindset, mental health, right? All of the ways that bringing up your confidence, looking at root causes, or commonly around our businesses, right? We've got our fingers in somebody else's wallet. We're telling somebody, do this, and you'll add subscribers to your list, or do this, you'll 2x your income. And when we're giving that advice to other folks, and we're saying, do this with your body, or do this with your mindset, or do this with your business and your money, the risk is someone can read that advice, take that advice, go implement that advice, and then have either a negative result or no result. Like in the case of money, often it's no result. And then come back to blame you for that result or no result or negative result. So what we want to do is insulate or protect ourselves on socials by saying, look, this is the capacity that I'm working in, and this is the capacity that I'm not working in. Let me break it down one step further. If a I'm just going to think of a good example. If a health coach, for example, tells a client on Facebook, let's say there's like a 5-day challenge, right? A lean green Facebook challenge, and everybody is gonna like detox themselves and they're gonna eat a plate of broccoli 3 times a day, every day for 5 days. And this is a health coach running this challenge, right? Or you can think of a money challenge, right? 5 days and we're going to add 200 subscribers to your list, whatever it is, some kind of challenge, right? Done by a service provider who is just a coach type, a consultant type, right? And somebody doing the challenge, let's go back to the broccoli example. Someone doing the challenge eats the broccoli and they get really sick because unknown to them, certainly unknown to the coach, they have some kind of thyroid iodine issue that causes them to not be able to digest properly broccoli, right? And they get really sick and they go to the hospital. Well, that's called an accident. But if a doctor or a registered nurse tells someone who has some kind of a thyroid issue, like a goiter or something, to eat all of that broccoli, and that patient or person gets sick, well, that's called malpractice. So what my point is, it's about establishing, and it's up to us to be the leaders, to establish the scope that we're working in, the capacity that we're working in, and what capacity we're not working in. So it sounds something like this. I am not a medical doctor. If you believe that you have a medical condition, please seek advice from a licensed medical professional, such as a doctor, nurse, naturopathic physician, etc. For the business coach, it's working with me is not a guarantee of results. Working with me is not a guarantee of future earnings. So that someone who takes your advice, whether it's the broccoli or root causes or upper limits, right? If we're talking about like mindset, or do this thing and you're going to have more money or more followers or more fame and glory. If somebody takes your advice, has that negative result, you've got that disclaimer in essence on your socials to say, look, this is the capacity that I'm teaching this in. I'm teaching this as a business coach, right? I am not, for example, I'm not a CPA. So I'm teaching you as a business coach, not a CPA. This is not tax advice. This is not investment advice. And if you work with me, there's no guarantee of that you're going to make money, what we call future earnings. So that what happens now is you're able, because you've got this, what's called a disclaimer. You've got this disclaimer saying, this is who I am. And more importantly, this is who I'm not. And then you can get out there on your socials and you can share your advice, your best tips, your best tricks, because you're not holding back, worrying that you're going to put something out there. Someone's going to use your advice, have a negative result, and then or no result, and then come back and blame you for it because you've put up this disclaimer. And one last thing, disclaimers are something that is a word that we toss around, super confusing. Let me just clear up what the heck is a disclaimer. So imagine, I'm all about like the analogies, right? I take it out of the law so that we can like get it really at the deep level, because we can all understand somebody spilling some grape juice on the rug, or maybe it was red wine, right? We can all understand a purpley red spill on the rug in the living room, right? We can all get that. And someone comes into the room, I'm sitting on the couch, let's say, and someone comes into the room and says, who spilled that grape juice on the rug? Well, if I spilled it, I can put my hand up and I can say, me, I spilled it. I claim responsibility. Or if I did not spill it, I can say, not me. I did not spill it. I disclaim responsibility. So that this is something where we're going to use this disclaimers on our socials, on our website, on the footer of every email that we're sending out when we do a podcast, so that people understand what what capacity you're working in and what capacity you're not working in. For example, listening to this podcast and watching this live stream, this is not legal advice. This is information for you to use as you grow your business. And listening to it is not a substitute for speaking to me or another attorney in your local area, but it's going to be very, very helpful. So that's an example of a disclaimer right there. Short, sweet, we say it, we get it out, and it protects us. And that's what we need on our socials. I actually have an article. I wonder if we can share it after the stream. An article about how to use a mini disclaimer on all your socials, Instagram and Facebook, to protect yourself. Happy to share that with everyone.
That was going to be my follow-up question without the article, but yeah, so on your Facebook, for example, you just in your bio, you would put something, or is that where it would go?
Well, you got a couple of places on Facebook. Facebook is an interesting one because first of all, you've got that sidebar, all the way on the right where you're going to write like it's on the right now, may not be on the right by the time people listen to this. You never know. So you've got that description of what the page is about or what the group is about. And you'll want to put short and sweet, right? It took me like 14 seconds to say mine. So it's just 2 or 3 sentences. And you're going to put that in the sidebar in your Facebook on your page. When you have a Facebook group and you have people who are going to join the group, you can do a couple of interesting things. You can have your mini disclaimer as a condition for joining your group, right? That folks have to opt in or say, yes, I understand. This is my mini disclaimer. And you can either have the 3 sentences or 4 sentences, or you can have a link and have folks say, yes, I agree. You can pin it at the top as a post. If you've had a Facebook group going for a while and you haven't done something like this and you have an admin, you can go back and make sure that you get people now say, hey, we're doing I've been working with a lawyer. I've got this handy new disclaimer that's going to protect me and you. And I'm asking everybody to please post a yes. Here's the thread, post a yes, right? And in your Instagram, does that make sense for Facebook?
Yeah, no, that makes sense. Yeah.
Lots of information going fast, I know, but right, you'll have the article. People have the article so they can refer back to it. And then on Instagram, a great place to put your disclaimer, a link to your mini disclaimer is right in your link tree. So that folks who are using your Instagram and looking at it and watching your reels and getting advice and watching your stories know exactly what they can rely on that information for and what they can't rely on it for. Again, so that nobody blames you for the results that they get or don't get.
Well, that makes a lot of sense. It definitely makes a lot of sense. It's people would rather put their head in the sand or, eat sand than have to deal with this. So yeah, we certainly appreciate all the, and I'm not going to use the word advice, but all the suggestions.
Right. And, legal is one of those things. I recently heard, I have a big team, and I recently heard someone on my team break down the differences. She was doing a little presentation for us and break down 3 different categories. This has nothing to do with legal, but just something interesting about a business tip. You can do it yourself. You can delegate it to somebody, meaning you have somebody where you retain ultimate control and you delegate it and have the work done by someone else, or you can outsource it. And meaning you get somebody totally external, right? Like people often think about like their CPA, or I like to say your gynecologist, right? You're outsourcing your pelvic health to your gynecologist, right? You're not kind of like co-creating that with her, right? She's doing her part. Maybe you're asking questions. I hope you are asking questions, but she's doing the behind the scenes, under the covers work, right? Or like your dentist. So legal is something that is totally appropriate to outsource. There are certain things in your business that you can DIY, right? You could put up this disclaimer that we've just been talking about. You can get yourself protected on your socials and make sure that you are keeping yourself and keeping that scope or capacity clear. But there are certain things that you should not DIY in your business. You should not try to write your own contracts. You should not copy and paste and make a Franken contract that you get from this source and this source. And I borrowed it and then I tried to put it to my own. I'm not a fan of DIYing your own contracts. And I am definitely not a fan of DIYing your trademarks. These things are really best left to people who have the strategy and the know-how and understand your specific business and your specific exposures, so that you're protecting yourself with the right language and not accidentally including some stuff that doesn't help you by it being in your contract. I see some real interesting contracts every week in my business, like a business coach who came to me last week with this contract that was all about real estate sales. It was all about like taking possession of the home. And I was like, where'd you get this contract? And she's like, oh, well, it's part of this and part of this and part of this. Why? It's no good. And I was like, well, parts of it are good. Parts of it are really, really nice and strong. But the whole part about keys to the house and mortgage, probably not needed in a business coaching contract. So, and folks don't know always. So that's why I'm here to help.
I have, I'm a professor and I have students that will borrow from the internet. That copy paste key is just so easy to use. Back in the day when you had to handwrite everything or use a typewriter, it was a lot more difficult to copy paste.
Yeah.
But they will, sometimes they'll copy from like classmates and they'll put things in there that are obviously it's from a classmate. Like I could tell, like someone put, they put down that from their home country of Uganda, there were many products coming in from China. And I was like, you're not from Uganda. Like right there was a red flag,
That tipped you off.
It just did. It tipped me off. I'm like, if you're going to plagiarize, at least do a little better job.
Right. At least clean it up a little bit. Right. Yeah.
But, plagiarism is the same thing. I mean, you're stealing someone else's intellectual property.
Yeah. And you have to be careful with, other students work not so much, but when you steal from a company, like we employ internet sweeps every single week. We run an internet sweep. We're looking for language that comes out of our materials. And, you and I we were talking earlier about copyright infringement sweeps. This is a real thing. So businesses are getting more and more savvy, and intellectual property is privacy and protection of content and protection of intellectual property is becoming such a hot commodity now that it is more and more dangerous to swipe another person's contract or another person's book report in your or thesis in your case, right? Because if a company has internet sweeps employed and activated, they're going to find that. And that is being on the wrong side of infringing and stealing someone else's intellectual property is not a place that any of us want to be. It can get you in all kinds of hot water, never mind big fines that are totally disproportionate, right? So if it's like a couple $100 to get the contract in the first place, but a couple $1,000 to fight it once you get the infringement, wouldn't it have just made more sense from the beginning to get a contract that you own, that belongs to you, that you have the license to? So I don't want to get soapboxy about it, but if you're not from Uganda, and you don't have a real estate business, don't put that stuff into your projects. Just be careful, a little more careful.
Okay, right? So you said something that I haven't heard before, which is internet sweeps. How do you use one of those? I mean, how do people even find out about how to employ these? I mean, I've heard of the reputation defender stuff.
Yeah.
But how do you do it for businesses?
So I like to say GTS, which is Google that stuff. Google that stuff. So you're going to Google and you're going to find internet sweeps. Certainly if somebody wants to reach out, I am happy to get you all set up with that so that your business, if you've got valuable content and you want to make sure that it's not being swiped unintentionally by other people, whether it's on purpose or not on purpose, we don't want that going on, right? So everybody's familiar with things like watermarking, right? Where you can watermark your images so that nobody can steal them, or things like TinEye, TIN, EYE, like eyes on your face, like Tin Man and I. Tin Eye is a service for images. So you can use Tin Eye to make sure that nobody is swiping your content. I have a little trick that I like, which is adding, that anybody can do. This is a DIYer, folks. Adding an intentional misspelling or typo into a document of yours. Because then if you know, like, for example, if you have the word, if it's like and it's got to be buried, right? It's got to be buried very deep inside of some kind of a document. And you, let's say, take the word love and you transpose the O and the V, right? So instead of LOVE, it's LVOE, right? It's like just a typo. Now you've got an incredibly easy do-it-yourself key that you can go ahead and grab that paragraph or the couple of sentences before and after that typo, if you will, intentional typo. And then you can just search that on Google, and Google will come up with GTS it, baby. And Google will come up with all kinds of and that's free, right? Internet sweeps are very costly, but that's a free way that you can go ahead and do a search. Now, there are certain businesses, like I'm fairly persnickety, and I don't love to have any errors in my documents, right? I want to spell the word love correctly. So that's not for everybody. But if you, or spell something intentionally in a unique way, like use a number instead of the word, like the number 2 instead of TO in a sentence, so that you can then grab that little blurb and search away. And if somebody is stealing it, it's going to come up. Google is such a powerful search engine. She will, if it is there, she will most certainly find it.
So you use a 1 instead of an L.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there you go.
Capital I instead of the L.
There you go. Because I think people won't necessarily even read that. Like the I goes so quickly when people are reading your content. So you can do that in like a blog article. And I love the idea of the number 1 in the word love instead of the L.
Or the capital I instead of an L would work.
Right.
Like
and
I
then
could
you
just
can
change
just
my name to capital A, capital I, small I, SON.
Yep, absolutely. Right. And then that's obviously just a unique, kind of like a unique fingerprint that's just yours. And then if you put that, and you put that special spelling of Allison in everything that you put up, all you actually have to do is search that word Allison, and then all the hits that come up that aren't derived from your sites, from your assets, somebody grabbed your stuff.
I know. Well, and as a writer, there's the huge amount of people that are copying ebooks and then selling them on pirate sites. And it's so incredibly frustrating because, you are creating you're using your expertise to create content, and then somebody's stealing it. And it's just frustrating. And, it's probably just going to get worse as the internet grows. But there's crafty people like Layne Lyons out there helping the world become safer.
One blog post at a time, right? And it used to be things like just stealing a blog post. And I mean, that was kind of like hard to see. But now what we're seeing is a whole new level. Like I have so many new clients who come into my business with whole courses stolen, usually by a former student, right? So, former somebody who was in their course, and then they'll say, well, I can do that on my own. And they'll go and they'll put the entire course out. And people who are stealing are often not thoughtful enough to really make the changes, right? So they'll use like the same names, the same cute little titles for modules. They'll use the same.
They're from Uganda.
Right.
Yes. Yeah. That's why, it's retype at least.
Right. At least
I don't advocate it at all, but at least retype.
Yeah. And you can, another free tip is you can click protect your website with some plugins, some websites, some plugins, so that, when you can go on an article or you can go in the chat in Zoom and you can just copy paste it. You can actually disable on a Mac, it's right click. So, or it's control click. I think on a PC, it's right click. You can disable right click on certain things on certain websites so that people, just to make it a little harder. So somebody would at least have to retype your suggestion, retype. So you're going to pick things up like mortgages in Uganda. You're going to pick that up when you retype it and say, oh, wait, I'm not actually from Uganda.
Wow. Wow. Layne, how can people get in touch with you? How can they find out more about your umbrella? Is it the umbrella method? Legal
It's
umbrella?
the legal umbrella. Exactly. So a couple places you can go on my website, which is laynelyons.com. We'll go ahead and we'll post that for you. I'm going to give that article. It's just a free article. It's not an opt-in or anything, but I'm going to give out that social media article to everybody. So you'll have that. That'll have some contact information on the bottom. And then, yeah, I would love to give a handout all about the umbrella. So I will go ahead and post a link to, I think the link is laynelyons.com/umbrella, but we'll get that posted for everyone so that people can learn more. And really, it just walks you through. It's got a cute little video that goes with it and walks you through the different key places in your business that you have to protect so that you make sure you're not getting into these legal pitfalls and you're making sure you're protecting yourself, your content, your business, and all of your hard work. That's what we want to see.
Definitely want to see all of that protected because we love everyone. We want everyone to be successful because they deserve it and they earned it.
Yes. And we want people, it's really not from this place of doom and gloom. It's from this place of, if you want to build a solid business, if you want to have something that has longevity and profitability, you need a solid foundation so that you can build on top of it. And on top of it, it's not the doom and gloom and like all the terrible things. It's about, we want you to have a strong, solid business. And that all starts with a solid foundation. And that means not the head in the sand anymore about your legal. And
no more head in the sand. Oh,
no more. Outsource it, please get it done. I always say, do it once, do it right. Never think about it again.
I took a legal writing class one time and I had a professor who said, the legal profession can do better, should do better than what they do. It's like it's written in such a way that only lawyers can read it.
Yeah.
So they're perpetuating the longevity of their career.
Yeah, totally. But not
like you,
not over here.
You're totally changing the
plain English.
And
because so that people are empowered, so that people can understand. Yeah, how can you sign a contract without understanding what's in those, whether you read the whole thing or you skim it, whatever you do, I'm going to believe that you read it. But how can you be empowered in your business if you can't even understand what an agreement that you're signing is? So it's all can be very, very simple, plain English, super understandable, super empowering for women to be able to take charge and really understand what's going on in their businesses. That's what we want to see.
It's the best way to get a leg up on your competition. Absolutely. Well, thank you, Layne Lyons, for stopping by.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
This
Aloha.
is Allison Nissen. I am with Revel Coach. We are so glad you've joined us today. If you ever have any questions, you can always connect with us at revelcoach.com. Until next time.